Back-to-school savings are officially in session at Tanger Outlets. Shop the latest school styles with an extra 25% off during Tanger Style, our biggest sale of the season, now through August 25th. Plan your trip at tanger.com.
The 3 Down Greencast is brought to you by the Pile of Bones Brewing Company. Home delivery now available in Regina and Saskatoon at saskbeerdelivery.ca. Welcome to the 3 Down Greencast, the internet's only Rename That Team podcast, and myself, Joel Gasson, with John Fraser, as usual. If you haven't guessed, yes, we will be talking about the Edmonton CFL club in a little bit.
Yes.
But it was an interesting day in the world. As we're recording this on a Wednesday evening, the first time in about 12 years since we've recorded a podcast, because
approximately, yep,
nothing's happening.
Yeah, there's that.
But there was an interesting thing in the world of Twitter today, as us peasants had the run of our favorite and also least favorite social media platform, Twitter, as all the blue check marks were down, and they could only communicate with us through retweets.
It was kind of magical from what I hear. I was, believe it or not, actually doing work, so I missed the opportunity for more of my terrible hot takes to be ignored by the public.
Yes, instead now we're going to talk, and your hot takes will be ignored by the public in another way.
Hey! No, that's fair. But what was it like today, Joel? Because, you know...
It was actually kind of nice, because, I mean, for the most part, yes, most blue checkmark people are just like organizations, and there's nothing super interesting coming out of them, but there are a lot of people on Twitter who probably are unworthy of the blue checkmark, let's say, based on their attitudes and opinions and all that sort of stuff, because it gives them some kind of platform that maybe other people don't get just because of that checkmark, and they're genuinely terrible people. So Twitter did not miss those people today, so that was fun. So there was actually a lot of great content going on from us normies today, as or as I like to put it, it was a good day to be a nobody on Twitter.
You know, I once tried to earn a blue check mark. Did you know there's an application process for it?
I think so. I've never applied because I really don't care.
I did at the peak of my broadcasting career with the Rush and the NLL. I went ahead and I actually filled out the email application, and they're like, "Why do you think you're important?" And I'm like, "I break NFL news or NLL news." And I'm
NFL news. Wow, we are really underselling this podcast if you're breaking NFL news.
Yeah, totally. Yes. Yeah. See, that's it. I just lied and still couldn't get it done. Right. I got the wrong league, and they still wouldn't consider me. So, but it's funny because they must get I think they manually review your application because it took a couple of days.
There's probably some kind of algorithm that notices obvious ones, and then when some guy from Saskatoon, Sasquare applies, they're like, "Hey, someone needs to look at this one."
Yeah, right. And I think they had to look because I got the typical robot you don't qualify for this, but it was long enough that I'm like, an actual human being had to read why I, a sportscaster at CJWW in Saskatoon, thought I was worthy of the hallowed blue check mark. And the worst part was I couldn't even enjoy the platform today because I was working.
Well, that was your first mistake.
No, that's fair. But hey, you know what? It's a new job. It's a new thing for me. I can't be lazy just yet.
No, you got to give it some time before the laziness and the hungoverness can really kick in.
Exactly. The 3-month probationary period. And if you're my bosses or coworkers listening to this, I swear I will never come in lazy or hungover.
Well, one of them anyway.
That's the first one. And the second, and guess what? The second one, I've been in the car business and the radio business almost my whole life. I hide it really well.
You learn to do that after a while when you've worked in similar industries like that. You learn to really hide how hungover you are the next day. You just kind of, it's how my always thought was, and with generous, especially in radio, it's like, I did this to myself. I'm just going to suck it up and go to work. It's fine.
Right. Exactly. I mean, there is the occasional time, and I found it especially like when I couldn't get like when I worked weekends in radio, and when I worked every Saturday at my old employers in the car business.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you still need that Friday to blow off steam once in a while with your friends.
Oh yeah.
Now at Toyota, I actually get some weekends off, so I feel like, no longer is like, oh my God, I haven't blown off steam in so long. I don't care. I'm going out. It's Friday. I'm going to show up hungover the next day. Now it's like, yeah, whatever. I'll wait 2 weeks.
That's fair. Yeah.
So I feel like, and you know what? I'm probably going to be wrong, but I feel like, the Saturday hungover thing won't be quite as prevalent.
At first, anyway, and then
that's who am I kidding? I'm lying.
As the world returns if the world ever returns to some sense of normalcy, you never know, right? But
that's fair. You know what though? I found like lots of people. I don't know about you, Joel. I've been drinking a lot more since the pandemic began.
Well, that seems to be the trend. I mean, Sarcan is apparently setting back. For those of you outside of Saskatchewan listening, Sarcan is where we return our empties to, or at least most people do. I just throw mine in the recycling bin because I'm lazy.
Fair.
I just consider it sunken cost into my drinking habit.
Right.
Other than my sponsor beer, of course, where I don't have to worry about paying deposit.
Right.
Yeah, so they've been sending close to $2 million back to people a week, apparently, on average, since they reopened about a month ago, I think.
Well, I tried.
Yeah.
And so I do math calculations in my head. I'm like, okay, if I'm working something freelance play-by-play, I'm usually billing around $50 to $100 an hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm not getting the equivalent of that in my time at Sarcan, I'm like, and not saying I have $100 worth of bottles, but if
you need to have like a mountain to have that much. So.
Oh yeah, my normal pre-pandemic stop would be 3 or 4 bags. I'd do the drop and go, swing by, I'd leave, they'd call me, I'd drop by again for a check. So it made sense, right? Maybe a grand total of 20 minutes, including the drive over there.
Yeah.
I showed up on Tuesday morning at 10 after 9. There was such a large lineup, and we're talking people with bags upon bags upon bags, and the drop and go wasn't working. I said to one of the workers, I said, legitimately, give me a number. How long am I going to be? He said 3 hours. This was at, again, 9:10 on a Tuesday. I had Tuesday off. I thought, okay, I've got Tuesdays off. This will work. This will, it's early. Nobody's going to be there on a Tuesday. Oh, no. So I literally came out of the back of my wife's van, and I yelled, who wants free bags? And everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, I ain't waiting. I got better things to do. Who wants my bag?
Then get my $10 back. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm like, I don't care. It might have been. In fairness, it was 7 bags, so it might have been like $40.
Yeah. See, when I lived in Alberta before I moved here, they have a similar system. I don't remember. They're just the recycle depots they call them or whatever. The one I went to usually just had a giant bin at the front where if you threw it in, it went to charity. So I actually collect them to do that. So then at least the empties went to something. So at least the money went to some kind of good organization, some kind of charity, rather than just down the drain, which I thought was good at least.
Sure. No,
I was in and out there in no time. Like, hey, in go the cans of beer, out I go. I'm gone.
Right. No, that's fair. And
see, because both you and I grew up in Ontario, where the system, at least it's expanded a little bit. For the most part, the deposit's still really only on alcohol. It's not on your pop cans and all that kind of stuff. All that just goes in the recycle bin like normal.
Yeah, exactly.
And then so you would go to the beer store, and you would, at the time, even when we were there, you could only return your beer bottles and cans. They didn't even take the other liquor back until recently. No. So that just started recently. It used to be just beer that you returned because they wanted to reuse the bottles.
Exactly.
That's the only reason that system existed there. So you would literally, you take back a few cases, and then you would use that as credit just towards your next purchase. That's the only time I really ever returned bottles for deposit, quite frankly.
And it was so brilliant.
Yeah.
I remember.
Now, there's lots of other shady shit about the beer store, but that was a good setup.
It was a great setup. You literally, you walked in with your empties, you walked out with a new case. Terrific. At a B.
I remember, my friend's dad was he's like, yeah, I will stack up the empties until I have enough for a full case.
I did that once in college.
Yeah.
Didn't take very long.
No. No, not when back in the day everyone foolishly bought 24 bottle packs for some reason.
Yeah. I think it was a cool thing to do, and of course it was.
It's a very Ontario thing. I noticed once I moved out west. I was like,
right.
yeah, like a lot of people really don't drink out of bottles with here. I was like, yeah, this makes sense. Then I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense.
It really does. And on top of that, was back then, before we learned, good beer, what was your go-to cheap beer? Because mine was always Lakeport, and it tastes like horse piss.
I can imagine. I used to drink a little bit of Lakeport honey, yeah. Like when I was like when I was like 19, yeah.
Oh, the Lakeport honey, like the honey was the. I remember.
Well, it's because I liked the Sleeman Honey Brown at the time, so I thought it was kind of equivalent, but it wasn't really.
Oh no! And as soon as it got warm, like when you used to bring your case of beer to the house party, and you just like sit it, usually by some old radiator or something, and you'd be drinking. Oh, as soon as it
I
got
will give
warm,
the beer bottles that they do insulate well, and they do insulate each other fairly well.
Ugh. Okay, I need to sip my good beer now because thinking about Lakeport's making me puke.
Absolutely fair enough. I will say this from what I remember, because I haven't had one in forever.
Yeah.
Lucky Lager in Ontario is very different than Lucky Lager here.
Yes,
and
it is.
It is still crap, but significantly better than the crap out west.
Yes. It is like if your buddy passes you a Lucky Lager in Ontario in a bottle and it's ice frickin' cold.
It's fairly light. It's like 4.5%. Yeah, it's extremely, extremely cold. You chug it, it's gone, and you get over it.
Exactly. It is not like Lucky Lager out here, and it is certainly not like Manitoba's Club beer.
What's that? Never heard of it.
Oh, Club? Oh my
no.
God! It is the first time in my life I have said no to free beer.
Wow.
I was at my grandma's funeral. We were having a wake at my aunt's place. And she comes up. She's like, John, you want a beer? Well, of course. Of course I want a beer. We're having a wake. And it was Club. And I'm like, oh, I've never had Club before. And I actually, and this is me as a grown-ass man. This is like within the past, oh God. This is within the past decade at the latest. I took that Club into the bathroom after it was about halfway done and poured it out.
Wow.
I just couldn't do it, and I came back and my aunt says, "Do you want another one?" I said, "No, do you have whiskey?"
That's the answer now. Yep.
Yeah,
that's pretty much me anywhere I go now. Where you're at some people's houses or their backyards these days, or at some kind of establishment that doesn't have anything good, and you're like, yeah, I'll have a Caesar, or I'll just have rye and water or something. It's fine. I remember Grey Cup in Calgary last year. I remember.
Yeah.
I was hanging out with a friend of the program, Jimmy and I.
Yep.
And we're at Ryderville. We got dragged there as usual.
Of course.
And some of Jimmy's family was there or something, like not like close related family, but like his uncle or something. So he wants to buy us the drinks and everything, and of course, it's just like Molson products in there because naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'll just have a rye and water, thanks.
That's fair.
That's pretty much all I drank for the most part, I think, at all of the team parties, because they're all one or the other, essentially. Though there was some Red Racer floating around the Lions party, we just never made it there.
Yes, and in the lounge, too, because you were texting me about the fact that they actually had decent beer.
Oh, the Football Reporters Lounge was Big Rock, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's fine.
See, I've still got the tolerance for Molson products.
I don't.
Because my father-in-law and my wife, and right now I'm drinking something different that I'm sure we'll get to in a minute. But
oh yeah, I guess we have to get into that at some point, don't we? Do an actual show at some point, yeah.
Right, exactly. This is too much fun. My fridge is filled with Budweiser, and you just learn, Gas. You just sometimes you just gotta. I haven't been at work long enough to make that, I can buy my expensive beer money. So I'm hoping by next month I can just fill it with expensive beer. But yeah, I'll still drink it. Again, it's got to be cold. And I got to be thirsty. But at some point during this podcast, you will probably hear me open up a Bud.
I can't even tell you the last time there was a beer product in this house that was not from a craft brewer.
That's
I don't think. I think even literally. I mean, we haven't even this house, like specifically this house for sure. It's never happened. The condo, I can't even remember before that. So.
Right. that might have been like one of my 3 favorite parts of your wedding was the fact that it was all from our great sponsors at Pile of Bones.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, who are amazing, and they should open up a second location in Saskatoon so I can just.
I mean, they do have sassbeerdelivery.ca up there, so I mean.
Oh yeah, oh no, we do. I still use it as an excuse to get out of the house. Of course, wear my mask when I go to the liquor store, which absolutely, as we get into, wear your fucking mask, people. Mm-hmm. The only time that we allow F-bombs in this podcast.
Yes, in the name of science, I will allow it.
Oh, that's fair. Okay. The science, not the, tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theories about how...
No, we believe in real science on this podcast.
Oh, God. I got into it with a former friend of mine on Facebook about masks last night, and I regretted it instantly.
Never do that. It's not worth it.
I know.
It's just not worth it.
It's just, oh, God. I'm just going to... You know what? I'm going to let this rage fester inside me for when we talk about the Edmonton Football Club later.
Yes, let's hang on to that because this is going to get fun, I think. Because, on this program, we do not believe in ranting for the sake of ranting, but it feels like, from at least one of us, likely John, one's coming, I think, this week.
Oh, yeah. I'm letting rage build inside. I can feel it. I can feel it in the cockles of my heart.
So, as usual, this rage is being fueled by someone. And as we talked a lot about beer and hangovers and whatnot.
Yes.
You said you were going to surprise me, so John, what's in the glass this week?
What is in the glass this week is from our friends Parallel 49. I know we usually like to go local, so I'll also give a quick local shout out. I got the District Summer Mixer. Some good stuff from District. Different. Their Rattler is different. I enjoyed it.
But the Rattler's probably their best product, I would say.
Yeah, I would say their Pilsner's not bad, actually.
I don't
their
like
Pilsner,
it. It's not my style, but yeah.
I enjoyed it. Again, cold and good.
I would take it over what's it currently in your fridge. But
that's fair. But I did find in the cockles of my fridge, Parallel 49. I was texting you about their fun mixer pack they've got.
Yep.
If you want to try a bunch of really good IPAs, I know I found it found a couple different places here in Saskatoon. It's a good price for 8 tall boys, but it is the Filthy Dirty IPA.
One of my favorites, yeah. Filthy Dirty it's a good one.
So good. I love Max has fun because one thing that Parallel 49 does that's really cool is the artwork on the cans. Mm-hmm. And this one has I can best describe as the Pimp Pig.
Yes.
It's strong. It's delightful. If you like an IPA, it's right up your alley. But I'd suggest get the whole mixer pack. They've got some Trash Panda in there. They've got some Hillbilly Ninja, which outside of one place in the city, I have not found Hillbilly Ninja anywhere on sale. And Hillbilly Ninja is one of my favorite IPAs. But yeah, I would highly recommend the Filthy Dirty IPA. And I feel filthy and dirty saying that, so I'm just going to keep drinking.
Well, friend of the program, Mike Torrey, will be happy about the Parallel 49 drop there.
Of course.
For me, I'm actually in your neck of the woods this evening.
Ooh.
As I have a High Key Brewing London Fog Porter.
Ooh.
So it's a dark beer. I was kind of feeling one tonight. So they describe it as a robust porter heavily infused with Earl Grey tea, lactose, and vanilla.
Interesting.
So, yeah, it's a really good one. It's a really good one, yeah.
Yeah, you are the dark beer guy, the porter guy. I am not. So I completely, if you say it's a good porter, I have to take your word on it because
it's very good. I admittedly ordered the 4-pack for my wife a while ago. She had a couple of them. This is the last one, but she drank most of them. Out of fairness,
really, Jenny's into the dark beers.
She loves dark beers. Yeah, absolutely.
I like her even more now. Like I like her a lot. Like I do. Like your wife isn't a wonderful person, and I love her a bunch. But I think she went up another notch. She went up another notch. You know.
Yeah.
Here I am trying to get Lacey to drink like Rebellion Lentil and like Rebellion Cerveza and Scarth Street Blonde and
I've got her onto everything now. Like she's always liked dark beers. She likes the fruited sours I've given her, and for the longest time she hated IPAs, but she's starting to come around.
when we can all hang out again, I think I just need I think Jenny and Lacey need some beer adventure time.
Maybe
figure it out, like girl time, and just do a little brewery tour, and you and I will just come along because brewery tours and John and Joel clearly go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Once we have a vaccine some point next year.
Yeah, something like that. That's probably what it's going to take.
Right.
What we don't know what it's going to take is for the Edmonton Football Club to get their head out of their ass.
I know it's
So,
Continue.
As we all know, this is probably the biggest story in the CFL right now, even bigger than whether they will play or not, which is saying something. And right. If this
They're not going to play.
Yeah, and if this discussion makes you uncomfortable, or if you vehemently disagree with so much that you are never going to listen to us again, then bye. It's been nice knowing you. I don't care.
Right? Exactly.
Because we're at a point in this discussion where the change just has to happen, whether Edmonton likes it or not. And this is the part with me that I am struggling with this the most, is why? I don't understand why the brain trust within the organization, this is clearly coming from above President Chris Person's head, because he just got there and he doesn't really know all that much about the whole situation, probably. Yep. This is a situation, It's been going on for a while, and for a while I kind of understood whatever. And, I'll preface this by saying, yes, Edmonton's name is not nearly as bad as Washington's name that was just retired. There's no question about that. Washington's name is not a name you would ever hear someone who's a Native American or a First Nations in Canada describe themselves as.
Absolutely.
There are still some First Nations, some Inuit people who call themselves that, sometimes in jest, sometimes not, regardless. There's just no reason for the delay to continue at this point. And I don't even care, quite frankly, how many people consider it racist, whether, the hordes of white men on Twitter or on Facebook get annoyed by it. It really just needs to change for the sake of just getting this over with. Mm-hmm. There is no situation where this name is going to continue to get better with time.
Nope.
So, why not just do it? And Len Rhodes, essentially, while he was still there, laid the path for them to go down that road. And it's leading me to believe this is why he's no longer there. The people above him, the board of directors, refuse to walk it. And I can't for the life of me understand why. This is an organization that has continuously been described as classy by many people in the media, both locally and not. And the numbers aren't adding up, and we're gonna get into a lot more about this and how ridiculous this whole situation is, and how we are learning a lot about how the true high ups of the Edmonton Football Club think and the kind of people that they are.
Oh, certainly. And here's the thing. You are right. Going back to Len Rhodes, and the amazing thing was, Edmonton, like many things in the CFL, looked like they had paved their road and they were going to be the first to do it.
Mm-hmm. Which would have been really smart because, number one, there's the PR move here on top of everything. Whether there's a human angle to it, there's the woke angle, whatever you want to call it. There's that whole thing. All this makes sense, but right now, do you want to be the team that decided, you know what? We should make this decision on our own because it's going to happen one way or the other, or do you want to be Dan Schneider, who's being forced into it because his business partner decided he's no longer going to sponsor the name of the frickin' stadium?
Right.
Which way do you want this to go is essentially what it's come down to.
Well, and that's the asinine thing, is Len Rhodes, they had the Empire nickname basically all ready to go. Yep. They had all the branding ready to go. You wouldn't have even needed to change the jerseys if you didn't want to. No. The logo works. There's nothing offensive about the logo. You could have just said, we're the Edmonton Empire now. We're one empire. Holy shit, that would have been great. Because guess what? All of a sudden now you make a whole bunch of money on branding stuff, on your sweaters, on your t-shirts, everything. It would have been a smash hit. And you know what? It probably would have made you a shitload of money. But instead, you went and screwed this up. And you screwed it up to the tune, You watched the Washington Football Club be pressured by their sponsors, and Dan Snyder, maybe the worst owner in professional sports, basically been told, change your name. It's overdue. Stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the funny thing is now, I think the Atlanta Braves are leaning that way.
I don't know if the Braves are looking at changing the name. They're definitely looking at retiring the chop.
Yeah, exactly. Which that is long overdue.
Yeah,
getting rid of the chop is long overdue.
The Cleveland Indians are looking into changing their name.
Exactly, as they should. I mean, Indian is not it is not a nice term for anybody. The Braves, okay, you can keep the name. I know, if you read into it, I don't think there's the same amount of heat on the Blackhawks because it's not a derogatory term, unlike the Edmonton Football Club.
Same with the Florida State Sentinels. There's I think there's even an existing kind of relationship between
there is, yeah,
the people and the state there. So yeah,
yeah, there is. That's all very, yeah. Florida State's keeping their name. Good on you. Braves, get rid of the chop. Indians, that one's been brewing for a while. I mean, they've been moving. They've been basically doing what Edmonton was doing with the Empire thing.
Except following through with it, yeah.
Exactly. Basically, they're slowly just kind of phasing it out, right?
Hmm.
So what I don't get now is the arrogance of the Edmonton Football Club. So you had a chance under Len Rhodes to be the first. You're now the last. And on top of that, you're last to the point that several large sponsors are saying, we don't want anything to do with you. And how do you respond? You put out the most loaded survey I've ever seen in my life. You sent that to me. I couldn't believe the questions.
Yeah, so 3 Down attained the link, which, I mean, it's floated around other places since, too, of the survey that was sent out recently, too. It appears at least a number of people who have a ticket account with the Edmonton Eskimos. So it wasn't specifically just season ticket holders, because I know there have been fans of other teams that have purchased tickets to game in Edmonton that signed up to accounts just to purchase games in Edmonton, etc.
Right.
So yes, there were some very interesting questions on this thing, and I don't know if you know the background of some people at 3 Down Nation. There are actually some smart people who work for this site.
Yeah, smarter than either of us.
There are people like JC Abbott who have education backgrounds.
Yes.
And they're like, this survey would not pass a class in Intro to Stats 101, which if you've taken a university program, you've taken Intro to Stats 101. I remember it. I don't remember anything about it, but I remember taking it because I hated it.
I think I took it in TV broadcasting school. That's how university.
So there's a lot of very normal questions to start. What is your sex? What age group are you in? How closely do you follow the Edmonton Football Club? All this sort of stuff.
Do you go to?
Yeah,
really
all this very important stuff. And there's some legitimate questions about the name and everything. And has your opinion changed over time? And all this stuff makes sense.
It's all fair. I would say probably the first 10 to 15, 10-ish questions.
Yeah.
You're
and then you get into ones like this. Do you believe that the name was originally chosen? The intent was to be disrespectful to the Inuit or the indigenous people. Thinking about the term, how it comes across today, would you say that it is disrespectful?
See, the fun... And that's what I don't get.
And it gets worse and worse and worse. Until we get to the one question that really shows to me a lot about what these people are thinking in terms of the board of directors with the Edmonton Football Club.
Right.
I think there's too much cancel culture today. Now we're bringing up stuff that a certain talk show host in this province likes to talk about.
Yeah.
And we know kind of where those kinds of people align. And to decry cancel culture in your freaking survey when you're trying to find, if you were taking this seriously, which clearly the team is not, because there's other things that have been going on that they've puffed their chest about too that prove that they're not taking this seriously whatsoever again. And there's been questions about whether they had taken it seriously before.
Right.
This is just a question that stands out as this completely idiotic and irrelevant. This is not cancel culture. This is about being human and doing the right thing.
Honestly, if you compare those last few questions to some of the emails that the Trump campaign has sent out to their followers that are like, who would you rather trust, the great glorious leader Donald Trump or crooked Hillary and the do-nothing Democrats? Like, those are your two answers. And this is basically what they're doing. You have reduced yourself to a Trumpian level, Edmonton. And, like, there's a lot of good people in Alberta. My sister lives in Alberta. Calgary, though.
And there are generally a lot of great people in Alberta. It is the political class of that province that have problems.
But you're playing into the stereotype that you're the Texas, and
yeah.
On what, why are you dying on this hill? Of all the hills to die on,
yeah,
your sponsors have basically told you to go F yourself. Some big ones, like Boston Pizza, have told you to go F yourself over the name and your response to it. And to come out and say, yeah, hey, we talked to a few Inuit. They're cool with it. It's fine. It's good. Yeah. Guess what? Our season ticket holders, they're cool. They're good. They say they're good. The arrogance of that organization now lines up with the arrogance of a lot of old school Edmonton media types. Looking at you, guy that can't get out of his chair to interview anybody. Edmonton is a very old school media town, and I feel as though the Board of Governors exists in their echo chamber, where the media there basically gets to go, you're right. That's right. Keep treating us good, because nobody else does. They took away our dressing rooms in the NHL, and now we have to eat veggies in the press box, but you know what? You guys are still good. And they're living in their own echo chamber. They're listening to themselves. They're listening to their own biases rather than opening up their eyes and going, we could have been first. Now we're last. And even if they do change the name by this point,
there will be people who will applaud, and it'll still be the right thing to do.
It should still be applauded.
But I will never. I won't give them the benefit of the doubt that they're doing this for the right reasons at this point.
No, especially, I would have
even a year ago. I would have even a month ago.
I would have even before the survey came out.
Yeah.
Because it was their announcement today that basically says, hey, yeah, we consulted with everybody again. Everybody says it's cool. It's good. Yeah, Your friends say it's good.
If you missed it, they came under fire for not releasing some old information about previous research they'd done on the name. And in an attempt to essentially, make things a little confusing looking, they decided so we're going to put out these random assortment of numbers that don't really mean anything.
Right.
So in their AGM on Wednesday, where it was mostly about financials, which normally there would be a lot of weird, interesting stuff in there that'd be worth talking about.
Yes.
But in this case, they've decided to make, in our case, because we're not an Edmonton podcast.
No.
The question.
And as an aside, speaking of that, can we all take a moment that I know they're not a 3 Down Nation podcast, but the fact that probably your biggest supporters in the Eskimo Empire podcast.
They're going through a rebranding, aren't they?
Was that?
Go on, never mind, yep.
Okay. The Eskimo Empire are some of the hardest working, most devoted podcasters out there. Mm-hmm. That have had, Andrew has had players, alumni, everybody come to his basement to record. Yeah. That's the relationship they've built with this club. They are your biggest fans. They are your biggest supporters. They are the reason I started getting a better perception of the Edmonton Football Club. And they basically came out and said, until you change the name, we're done.
Yeah.
That's years of hard work put in by perhaps, I would say, this isn't even an argument, the best fan-run podcast in the CFL. The hardest working, best-run fan podcast in the CFL.
It's up there for sure, yep.
And you just alienated everybody. They are the ones coming out and saying, guys, this isn't cool. I don't get the arrogance. If your name could potentially be offensive to anybody, why on earth would you not look at changing it?
It's not even to be to me the word offensive, I'm offended. The idea that people are offended by something gets thrown around too much these days as sort of a blanket statement about everything.
You're right. Absolutely.
It's just an awkward name that no one uses. It's not a relevant word. It's not a relevance in any sort of way these days. So what's the point? If people don't like it, if this is, like, we're just talking pure marketing in business, if there are enough people, if there are, a chunk of people, no matter who they are, that do not like your brand, you change it. Especially right now in the CFL, and especially in a place like Edmonton where attendance has been sagging, and that was brought up in their AGM for a reason why revenue and profit and why they suffered a loss this past season. A big chunk of it was the Montreal thing, which there's an interesting story there, but we don't even have time to talk about it because of how absurd everything else is.
Yes.
And instead, they throw out, so this is what they threw out at the meeting. So they did some research between 2018 and 2019, and they show 78% of Western Arctic Inuit support the name, 55% support Eastern Arctic, where there's little connection to the team, 55% in Nunavut, and then 31% in Eastern Arctic, where there's, and this is a little Kevin Lowish, quote, little connection to the team. This whole tier 1, tier 2 fan thing. Remember that a while ago?
I do remember that. Good reference. Great reference, Gas.
Yeah, so Three Downs JC Abbott looked into these numbers a little bit, being the guy he is. Mm-hmm. He ran the numbers. So he's like, first off, the West has by far the smallest Inuit population, where there are more than 4K less than Quebec by itself, more than 20K less than Nunavut. So apparently the overall breakdown, according to JC, is about 9,400 for the West, 30,100 for Nunavut, and about 25,000 for the East. So
numbers don't lie. No. Numbers never lie.
So he said, given that there are about 65,025 Inuit in Canada as of 2016, that means 51% of all Inuit are opposed. There's some other numbers in there he runs too, but that's basically the gist of it that he came through. And then and it's not a scientific calculation or anything like that. We don't really know who they talk to, that whole thing like that. But regardless, this is still a significant number of people that decide this probably shouldn't be the name of your football team.
Well, and that's exactly it. And to me, like, unscientifically, like, let's just look at logic. Let's look at this logically. I'm going to use a bit of a example. You're doing business with somebody. Say, selling them a car. At Toyota.
Who would do that?
And Toyota in Saskatoon. Crazy. Would you ever, and I know I never would, go up and call that person, hey, that Eskimo's buying a car?
I wouldn't say that to anyone anywhere.
Exactly. Like, it's just common sense. But yet, they're doubling and tripling and quadrupling down that, like, to be the only team in North America that hasn't gone, yeah, we need to take a look at this. Like, if Dan Snyder is changing his name, and I get why Dan Snyder's doing it, and he's a piece of shit, but he's still doing it, and you're not? See, like you said, Joel, pull your heads out of your asses.
They've said they're looking into it. I don't believe they're taking this seriously. I don't think...
Look at the survey! They obviously aren't.
No, they're not. And I think based on what we're starting to learn about this group of people, I don't think they intended the survey to go public, except they didn't really they didn't really cover their asses very well with it, quite frankly.
No.
Where the company they hired was just doing what they were told, so whatever.
Yeah.
So they had this open-ended link that wasn't linked to specific accounts. There was, everyone sharing the link everywhere all of a sudden, and it's just, oh well, that's your problem for not understanding how this works.
Right.
And asking these stupid questions along with it.
Like, and here is the thing. If anybody, like, have you heard really anybody speak out in support of the name other than some old school Edmonton media types who shall not be named? Who shall not get out of their chair? I haven't.
Not anyone of not like an actual sort of, I put my name to this forum, no.
No, you haven't. And again, that, right, like, it would be like if somebody tried to criticize the name Blue Bombers. I would stand up and say that's not an offensive name. It honors the city's military heritage. It honors, people that served and did great things for Canada and Winnipeg. It'd be the same thing if somebody said the word Rough Riders was offensive. It's not offensive. It was an old term. It's just it's one of those things. Like, if let's use this example. I walk up to somebody in a bar and say, "You look like a bit of a Rough Rider." Am I gonna is anybody gonna take offense? So they're probably gonna wonder what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah, most people will be like, "What are you even talking about?"
Exactly. What are you? But nobody's gonna be offended, right? If I said, I mean, here in Saskatchewan, if I said you look like a bit of a blue bomber, I'm probably wouldn't go over well. But in anywhere else in the country, I said, yeah, you look like a blue bomber, look like an aviator. Again, probably somebody goes, what are you talking about? But nobody's offended. Lion, Stampeder, Argonaut, Red Black, Alouette, same thing.
Schooner.
Hey, love to be called a schooner. I'd love to be called a schooner as my schooner is built.
Could go for some schooners.
I definitely could. But if I walked up and called somebody an Edmonton Football Club nickname, they're probably going to be mad. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And that's why I hate these people. Oh, it's cancel culture. It's blah, 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 blah. Just think of it that way. Mm-hmm. If you called a First Nations person that word, you could walk up to that same guy and be like, you're a Stampeder. You're a lion. They're not going to care. Nobody's going to care. But, if you can't call somebody that name, what are you doing calling your football team that name? And what are you doing doubling, tripling down on it, going, yeah, this is fine. Look, 49% of people that we surveyed said it's okay. And, hey, the guys that answered our loaded survey, they love it. Ugh. When you are worse than Dan Snyder, the worst owner in sports, you need to look yourselves in the mirror and go, what am I doing? Because guess what, Edmonton Football Club? What you're doing is not right. And you need to change it. Pull your heads out of your asses. Hashtag Joel Gasson.
I mean, it's entirely fair. And then they're also saying, well, the original name was picked because, it shows strength and with the weather and winter and all that. And it's like, if only there were other ways to describe being strong in the snow. There's no other possible words in the English language you could use to describe being hardy in winter. None.
Nope.
None. There's no
None.
animals. No animals survive in the winter.
No. Polar bears don't.
No.
Penguins.
No.
Even chipmunks do.
Huskies.
They hibernate.
Yeah, nothing.
Bears, huskies. Birds. Several birds survive in the winter.
Elk. Aren't they fine? They get through it.
Deer, moose. I'm trying to think what else. Fish.
Don't even bugs hibernate somewhere? They're fine.
Yeah. Certain kinds of bug do. Yeah. I remember from watching Over the Hedge, a children's movie.
Watch that movie.
It's not bad. It's actually pretty good. With Bruce Willis.
It was pretty good, actually. Yep.
Turtles. Turtles survive the winter. So do raccoons. You could even be
a
the
Belgian
Edmonton
quad
trash...
goes a dark beer goes great in the winter.
You'd be the Edmonton Trash Pandas.
You could. The Edmonton Porters.
Yeah, Edmonton Stouts. I might hate them even more, but the Edmonton Extraordinaires, the League of Extraordinary Edmontons. you could have Sean Connery come out. Here are your Edmonton Extraordinary Gentlemen. Right? That was a fucking terrible Sean Connery. Keep the F-bomb in there, Joel.
I'm too lazy to record it to edit this point, so yeah.
That was a really bad Sean Connery.
I wouldn't expect anything better.
Shop Plato's Closet tax-free August 2nd through 4th for back-to-school styles. We sell the trendy, gently used styles you need to make a difference in the world and in your wallet for back-to-school shopping. Save up to 70% off regular retail prices by choosing recycled styles. Save even more when you shop tax-free this weekend. Make a change that others can respect and repeat. Shop Plato's Closet in North Charleston and West Ashley this year for your back-to-school looks. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.